Go download my free legato course right now and learn to play fast in the fastest way possible. Over distorted sound here. I just read something off the internet that said, answer it to the question, how long time does it take to really learn to master the guitar? And I should, first of all, all respect for the attempt to answer the question. Second of all, the answer is hilarious, but I'm not trying to make fun of everybody here, but it's an attempt, and respect for that. But it says, I got it right here on my iPad, as a rule of thumb, it takes around 6,000 hours of practicing, which is 2 hours a day for, 8 years? Who has 2 hours a day with a normal job, go to school, whatever, and who is consistent enough to practice 2 hours a day for 8 years, like in a row, right? To create a good musician. Now you're just good. You've been practicing for 8 years, 2 hours a day, and now you're good. Cool, right? And then the next thing says, and it takes nearly, I don't know why it says nearly, but it's just nearly 10,000 hours to practice for 2 hours a day, for 14 years to create a pro. It's stuff like this that creates people who never become pros. Because this is just who wants to go into that, right? And what happens is we're so passionate about this anyway, right? Even though somebody comes along and tells us something like that. And so we should start practicing just because the heck of it, right? We like this. We love this so much, so we practice anyway. But then every time we wake up or look up from our instrument and say, why am I better? I could be much better, or I should be much better. I want to become much better. Why am I not? And then we look into something like this. Oh, well, I can never be consistent enough to practice 2 hours a day for 8 years, much less 2 hours a day for 14 years, right? Why is it if this is true, why do we have like 100,000 people who's been playing for 30 years, seriously, 30 or 40 years, or at least 25 years, who aren't even close to being good musicians? And why do we have young people like, say, the upcoming, 16 years old? He doesn't even have time to practice 8 years. And he's like a super pro, right? We got kids, playing violin like little gods, right? And we got people playing for 30 years. And they can't even, play the most basic Bach song, whatever, right? And that's where the next lie comes in this whole discussion out there, is that it's talent, right? It's God-given talent. Just look at it. That's magic. Oh, what is magic when it comes to learning and skills? It's called talent, right? And then we can all say, first of all, we can all look up to these amazing stars who put in the work for 14 years, every single night, practicing. Oh, it was practice. Oh, it was hard, right? For 14 years. So we can really put a lot of weight into that and respect. And then we can look at ourselves and say, okay, yeah, I'm perhaps just dabbling, just been playing for 5 years. What can you expect, right? And I didn't practice 2 hours a day consistently. So, right? And it creates a totally weird thought process when we try to evaluate what to do, right? Because we can always fall back onto a story like this and say 6,000 hours for 8 years. Oh, right? It's terrible. I went from, and I never had any talent. What I might have talent for, or, some kind of preference, some kind, an area that draws me in, it's how to learn faster. That's my talent, right? Everything was so hard. Everything was impossible. I tried to play as fast as Paul Gilbert. Impossible, right? I tried to learn to play fast chords or finger picking. Impossible. So I had to come up with new ways of understanding, what did Paul do that I don't do intuitively? What did he do intuitively that I don't do? Right? First of all, he's a very positive human being, right? Oh, hoy, crew members. And then he tries to teach us crazy stuff, right? As if it was the most, normal thing in the world that we were going to learn to play the most insane things, right? Such a positive, productive outlook. Just doesn't see the obstacles there, right? But there are so many things that we can learn that can propel our development. And you can see it below these YouTube videos from time to time. People write, oh, I looked into your stuff and I started using these methods, this insight, whatever, and suddenly something started happening and you never know what it is. You never know what you are missing. You are basically a recipe with a lot of ingredients and you got 1 or 2 ingredients that aren't working to their full capacity. So you are only working to 50% or 25% of capacity. Once you find those 2 ingredients in the cake of building amazing guitar skills, then suddenly all hell can break loose from one day to the other. You can suddenly just break through it all. And that's what happens everywhere. So that, you can't live with a story like this, that it takes 6,000 hours or 8 hours of 2 hours a day, right? Don't believe it. What you do instead, a simple formula, takes me about 30 seconds to 60 seconds to give you. What are we even talking about when you say master the guitar? What are we talking about? Because I can teach you to master 2 chords and 1 strumming pattern at a totally out of this world level in record time, if that's the only thing you practice for 3 months, right? Consistently. You can create amazing results with focus and concentration. What does those 2 words mean? Focus on a single little thing and then concentrate on that for an extended period of time until you win through or die trying. That's it. If you can do that, you can develop so incredibly fast, it's ridiculous. Right? And most people don't believe that. But you have to take not only the practicing and practice something to the exclusion of most other things, and you have to overwhelm that tiny little thing with so much effort, so much practice, so many repetitions, and you have to constantly look for ways of doing that even better, right? So you develop your mind and you develop your approach to it all the time. Because I can tell you 1,000 things, but there are 1,000 ways of applying what I'm talking about. So you have to do the work of applying these strategies and becoming better at 2 things: how you should apply them so they work for you, and secondly, how you apply them in the best way possible in your life situation. So there's you and there's your life situation, and then there's the strategy. Then you go to work to see, how can I make this real, right? By using these strategies. And those are the strategies that some people use intuitively, and we call them talented. That's why they get so far in so short period of time. It's not talent. Shut up with it. If I have long legs, I'm probably better at running a 100-yard dash than you are, if we practice or, equally, right? But it's music here, right? Anyone can learn to do the most amazing things on this instrument, I promise you. It's mechanics. And then you can add your own person, your own preferences, your own unique interpretation of what you do to that mechanic, right? To those mechanics. But everyone can learn the mechanics at an insanely high level. I went from playing, I said that a lot, campfire chords, like being able to go... And my guitar was in tune back then. It's not now. Stuff like that, and simple classical pieces, a little bit of finger picking, stuff like that. Intermediate, some would call it. I would call it an advanced beginner. Bottom intermediate. And I went from that level to playing crazy alternate picking stuff in 2 years. And I did it by developing these principles, these insights, and then applying them relentlessly, day in and day out. Sometimes I practiced a lot. Sometimes I almost didn't practice over those 2 years. And then, fair enough, it took me a couple of years to mature those skills. I could do the job, but it took me a couple of years to really make it totally effortless. But 2 hours a day for 6 years and 14 years, 10,000 hours of practicing, well, then you're not really practicing. Come on. Right? I hope there's no teachers out there who tells their students things like this, because it's really, right, it isn't that hard. It's hard compared to most other things like watching Facebook and browsing YouTube, right? But it's not that hard. Subscribe for more free videos. Do it. Do it now. Do it.